Welcome to the Bold Analysis. My name is Frank. Now, today have been following keenly on some latest developments that have been going on, especially on social media and on X. There have been hashtags that have been trending of Occupy Karen, and under the hashtag, the intention is to have the Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua impeached. Now also, for a better part of yesterday, there were some fake letters, I won't call them fake in quotes, that were circulating on social media of planned intentions to submit a motion in Parliament to impeach the Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua. And that purported letter was purportedly sponsored by Mathira MP Eric Wamumbi, who is the area member of Parliament to Rigathi Gachagua. Now, there are these clips of Rigathi Gachagua speaking and Eric Wamumbi speaking sometimes within this week that will form the basis of our analysis today. Just but part of the basis of our analysis today.
Mfanyabiashara yeyote usitishwe, na kama DCC ama chief ako na shida ya any business in Mathira, akuje na sababu ya kusema ile shida ako nayo.
What the honorable member of Mathira is doing is purely a contravening the law, because as far as we are concerned, matters to do with the regulation of alcoholic drinks is a subject matter of the county government, and he has no mandate whatsoever. It is not within his jurisdiction, and therefore he needs to be guided that he is calling us to act within our mandate, but what he is operating on is not a subject matter within his scope of work, and therefore we are asking him to respect us, to respect the Deputy President.
We know that there are genuine business going on. However, we have a law that is in place.
I don't have a problem. If the Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua is a problem, let somebody else lead this war on illicit brew so that they can continue, so that we save our next generation. But you cannot destroy an entire generation because probably you want to undermine one person. He's just a single person. How do you sacrifice an entire generation, a whole population, because you have a scheme against a leader? And the problem of that leader being truthful and listening to the ground. Mimi hakuna makosa ingine nimefanya hata moja, ni hiyo tu. Kusema tusikize nini? Yeah, that's all. Let's listen to the people. So let's be careful. Let's overzealous public servants not undermine the president and the government before the people of Kenya. Let us be careful. Let us think about the people. The people of Kenya do not want poisonous alcohol. They do not want illicit brews. Why are you forcing them to take poison and illicit brews? Yegere kiajuge idue tuli andũ a Kristiano na tuli andũ a kwaria ndeto ciama. Iwe wĩra witũ nĩ kwaragia ndeto ciama na kwaragĩrĩria andũ aitũ tondũ nĩo matũhete kura. Na niĩ nĩ mũithiri wa kworotwo ndĩ wa gũthurwo. Katiguo. I am an elected leader. I am not appointed. So I listen to the people who have employed me. And I always associate myself with the feelings, the views, and the aspirations of those who have elected me into office. Even I assist the president, and I do assist him in all his work. But I continuously listen to the people of Kenya so that I'm able to give him good advice. I'm also able to make the right decisions. Because leadership is about the people. The people must be the center of each and every conversation so that we are able to make good progress. So mimi ningetaka kuambia maofisa kila pahali Kenya, I am not aware of any decision by cabinet, by government, to reopen bars that were selling illicit brews. Those instructions are illegal, and it's part of the political schemes that are going on in this country. And those schemes are destroying the country. They are not building the country. And we would like to tell those people who have those schemes, please stop it. Don't undermine the president and his government by antagonizing the people of Kenya. Wengine wamekuwa na kiburi, wakifungua mdomo watu wanakasirika, si ndio? Yeah. Nao watu ndio wanaharibia rais, wanaharibia serikali, wako na kiburi mingi sana. Wamekula, wameshiba, wanatapikia watu ambaye hakuna kitu wamekula. Simu wapatie kidogo wakule alafu mwatapikie. Atiguo. Makaria mwikoga waho na weke ate. Yeah. And that is the problem we are having. You know, wewe umekula, umeshiba, unaongea vile unataka. Na kuongelesha watu vibaya na maringo na kiburi, ambaye ni mambo ambaye haina haja. So let us help the president to succeed. Let us help him in his programs, but let us be humble as we talk to the people of Kenya. Twariria ndu na gitio na twinyihiria ndu toneo matuhete wira. Na mkumbuke miaka 5 ikiisha mtarudi kwa hii watu. Mukamakora. Matwaririo ila muna nako matwariria. Dikono ile kate. Weariria ndo leo kwenda. Metire. Monie matahiko.
It is crystal clear from Rigathi Gachagua's speech especially that he has realized something, that there are some people within this government who are using people like Eric Omumbi to frustrate him. And Rigathi Gachagua has been an ardent campaigner of Mount Kenya interests first ever since he joined this government. And whatever he has been campaigning on is around 3 issues that is always presented for the rights of people in Mount Kenya. That is 1, on alcohol and drug abuse. 2, has been on the 1 man, 1 shilling, 1 vote that he has also been equally castigated for within the mountain region. Now, even recently, during the burial of his sister, Lea Wangari, a majority of people within the government did not attend that state event, and they chose to give it a wide berth, and only for Cabinet Secretary in charge of Agriculture, Mithika Linturi, to attend this event. Other and a majority of leaders from the government, even the president himself, gave this event a wide berth. This is just but a confirmation that all is not sitting pretty well between Rigathi Gachagua and a majority of leaders within the Kenya Kwanza administration that he claims to be part and parcel of. And maybe to Rigathi Gachagua, it is time for him to also define his boundaries. It is time for him not to pretend that all is well with him within the ruling coalition and all is not well and even with his boss, William Ruto. Because this is a talk that we've been having all over, over and over and again, that all is not well with Rigathi Gachagua within the Kenya Kwanza ruling coalition, but for him, he's chose to pretend that all is well. And even yesterday's event that culminated into the signing or assenting of the IBC bill, Rigathi Gachagua was there, but compare his body language, especially that picture where he was speaking to Raila Odinga. That picture had 2 visual interpretations. That 1, there might be something that Rigathi Gachagua and Raila Odinga are up to. Or 2, Rigathi Gachagua is or seemed to be somebody who was forced to be speaking to Raila and was not happy about Raila's presence in that event. And even after the swearing in, sometimes in 2022, Rigathi Gachagua made it clear that he will not allow Raila Odinga to come within the government of his and William Ruto. Now, the plans to impeach Rigathi Gachagua, if so, they exist because it is from them. People would always want to gauge. We might not just dismiss them as fake reports because for a better part of yesterday, even the leading media houses in this country had shared this news of intended plans to impeach Rigathi Gachagua. Some of them later pulled down this information, claiming to be fake and are not associated with the website. But then you killed the messenger. But the message is already home. The intended objective of this communication was to test the grounds. It was to test the waters of what will be the public perception of this and how will people take it and how will Rigathi Gachagua support base take it and how will those who are opposed to Rigathi Gachagua take this message. That message, that kind of leveling had already been achieved at the time of dismissing them as fake reports. Some even went ahead and looked at the number of MPs in the National Assembly and what they would need in order to see to it that this impeachment comes to realization. But I believe, from where I see it, and also from a majority of analysts, also from a majority of our audience, you'd agree with me, and even people from Mount Kenya, that those impeachment plans are politically too ambitious. They are politically too ambitious in that they are plans that might not see the end of the day. Let's ask ourselves one thing, that it is not going to be the impeachment of Rigathi Gachagua that is going to be before Parliament for the first time under these 3 or 2 years or so. When we say Parliament, that encompasses both the Senate and the National Assembly. We've had a majority of county leaders appearing before Senate for impeachment that have not been successful. We've had Cabinet Secretary in charge of Agriculture, Linturi, appear before the National Assembly for impeachment and that was not successful. So, you didn't tell me that out of nowhere, out of the blues, the impeachment of a deputy president would see the light of the day. Rigathi Gachagua is equally a strong man politically and with a following and with this also his base. So, one advice to Rigathi Gachagua at this particular juncture is that he needs to define himself, because Rigathi Gachagua has been one man whom today speaks from this end, the next day speaks from the other end. And that one has come out clearly in the recent wake of the unrest that has been witnessed in this country with the Generation Z protests. Because at one point, he was on the receiving end of having sponsored the protest together with the former President Uhuru Kenyatta, alongside name of Raila Odinga being dragged at some particular point. When that did not sell, Rigathi Gachagua came out and also spoke and told the Gen Zs that, give dialogue a chance, or let us sit down and listen to you. So, he's not been able to define himself. While he is on the receiving end, he has always been wanting to be on the defending end. So, if he defines himself, that will help also him, this definition of himself. When all was not well between Uhuru Kenyatta and William Ruto somehow defined himself. He made away with a section of MPs called Tanga Tanga, while the Kieleweke MPs remain with Uhuru's camp. So, to Rigathi Gachagua, all he keeps saying is that I will speak when the time is right. So, it is never too early. It is never too early. When all is not well, and it has reached this juncture of some people calling for your impeachment, then you might get yourself in the offing. So, he needs to define himself politically. People need to feel that if indeed it is true that there are some people who are against him just by the virtue of jealousy of his political achievements in a short span, then in order to gain that public sympathy that he seems to be now playing the cards with a list of his bloggers, then he needs to define himself. Number two, by defining himself, he needs to get a political vehicle. You know, some days back, there were reports of some political affiliations affiliated to DP Rigathi Gachagua being tried to be registered with the register of political parties that flopped. Also, when the son of the former president, that is Jimmy Kibaki, stepped out from his political party, there were reports that Rigathi Gachagua was in talks with the leadership of this party in order to use this as a political vehicle. But it doesn't have to be at this particular juncture a legally registered political party, because at that time Tanga Tanga was not a legally registered political party, but was just an affiliational outfit. So he needs kind of a vehicle like this in order to marshal those MPs who are behind him, because whatever the state has been using, all the people who are against him have been using, is going to his insiders, trying to pave in within the circles of its insiders. Because you look at this case of Eric Wambui, who is his member of parliament. This is a man who was loyal to Rigathi Gachagua, and nobody imagined that he would cross to the other side of Rigathi Gachagua's side, because Rigathi Gachagua played a critical role in his election. He was a member of county assembly, but Rigathi Gachagua held his hand and he got that Mathira seat. And even during his dowry negotiations, when this man was to be married to, I think that is Bet Maina, Rigathi Gachagua played a critical role in that negotiation for dowry. So, if this is his political son that is turning against him, and allegedly there are also reports, there are some senior figures within the interior ministry, that is the ministry headed by Kithure Kindiki, who are fighting Rigathi Gachagua by use of his allies. And that is where that Mathira MP got the powers to order for the reopening of the bars. So what happened is that some people told Eric to come to the press, tell them that I'm ordering opening of this bars against the DP's wish, so as to make Rigathi Gachagua politically incorrect by this. And then another thing, you know, there is this factor of Ruto Raila offing, card offing. And even yesterday, after that joint press statement that Raila issued together with Ruto, you know, there have been talks in town that, you know, the reason as to why Ruto is waiting on that cabinet reshuffle is in order to get to an agreement with the Raila side, so that they can sort of have a government of national unity with Raila, with some of Raila's allies' names being fronted to be part of the new proposed cabinet that Ruto is trying to reorganize and re-strategize. So, in the event that this matures, then Rigathi Gachagua will be politically isolated. So, on the same end, there were some people who were talking of a possibility of a work partnership between Rigathi Gachagua and Raila. But I think this is not possible, because Raila would only be able to work with William Ruto, since William Ruto is close to power. If Rigathi Gachagua and Raila works, then that would mean two opposition figures working. And currently, the opposition seems to be dead. Then it would mean that they'll need to first resuscitate the opposition before they can regain the popularity for Rigathi Gachagua. So, he needs to come out clear. He needs to be on the lookout for all this, because the Raila-Ruto pact caught him unaware. He didn't think of it that this would come to materialize. But finally, it's coming to materialize against his prayers and wishes. And also, Rigathi Gachagua, I always tend to feel that he should be having himself to blame, because at the very start, he started on the wrong foot. You remember the kind of political statements he was making in regards to Raila's camp on how they intended to bury Raila politically for good and for better. That is where he started on the wrong foot. At some point, he was too exposed by his boss Ruto. When Ruto, you remember at some point when Ruto was traveling out of the country, when Azimio had anti-government protests. So he was being left as the man in charge of coordination of the state response to the wave of the protests. And at some point, it was seen that he ordered police to use unnecessary excessive force against the Azimio protesters. So all this coupled summarizes him starting on the wrong foot, and that did not work for him well politically. That is why now he has come back on that political redemption. He's trying to be the people's pleasers. You remember Edwin Sifuna, the Nairobi senator, who is also the SG of ODM at some point, questioning as to why now people find it to prefer Rigathi over other people within this Kenya Kwanza government. So that is the kind of tough balancing act that Rigathi Gachagua is in and that he needs to look into. Thank you for watching. My name is Frank.